Welcome back to the Balance Bureau. Today I have on Mike, and he is a man of all hats, and I am going to let him bring his experience and his wisdom here today to share with you because he has his hands in many activities and they're all so intriguing. So I would love to hear more about what you're up to and what you're doing and ultimately how you got there.
Cool. Thank you very much for having me on. I'm really excited to be here. So, how I got here, I'm a military guy, and I actually don't get out until next year. And I needed to figure out what I wanted to be when I grew up. Was my joke? What am I going to do? And I've watched a lot of in the Marine Corps, and I've watched a lot of Marines get out, and they're out for 6 or 7 months, and they gain weight, and they don't cut their hair because they're just soaking up the freedom, and then they lose themselves completely. They don't have a mission. They've lost the purpose. They've lost the discipline. And I try to convince people that living a disciplined life is not the opposite of freedom. It's actually complete freedom because it gives you freedom to be who you want to be within that structure. Just like you can't have football players unless you have the rules of football, right? And you can't have music unless you have the structure that is music. So, the structure and the discipline actually gives you permission to be exactly who you want to be in that. And I realized that I needed to start to figure out what that was going to look like for me when I got out. And I wanted to build the structures and have them in place with probably a newly formed identity and a new tribe. And for me, entrepreneurship was that tribe of people. I just love entrepreneurs. They're excited about life. They're looking for opportunities. The good ones are trying to find value to deliver to people. And it was just been a really fun journey. So I have violated a very serious classic rule of entrepreneurship, which is to find one thing, do that thing over and over and over again, get really good at it, and then never do anything else again. And I hate that. So I do a lot of things. I had a successful math and physics tutoring business for several years. I still tutor a little bit here and there, but not as much anymore. I have a self-publishing business with a new book out recently, and I coach, and I'm launching an Etsy store with a friend, which is just like, he was just like, "Hey, do you want to do this?" And I was like, yes, I do. I have no idea how to do that, but it sounds like fun. And then I also build and run communities. So I've got a few communities on the school platform, which is where we met, and some that I run and others that I consult on to help other people grow their communities. And that's a lot. I just threw a lot at you and at the audience, but you said multiple hats, and there's a lot being juggled there. So
Yes, and I love that you mentioned wanting to get ahead of what you know is coming. That takes so much, not only just like external awareness, but also self-awareness to be like, hey, I see the path that I could take, but I'm not ready for that path. So what can I do now? And then you're like, okay, I'm just gonna do everything.
yeah, I mean, maybe somebody might diagnose me and say, "Hey, you're overreacting here." I won't lie. Some of it is born from fear of the unknown, right? And but I'm also the kind of person who's always took on too much, and that's just kind of a little bit of my personality, and I enjoy it. I'm very curious about how things work and how the world works, and so I like to sink my teeth into something, get good at it, and then just move on to something else, because that's the adventure for me. And I will say, a lot of this though came from clarity through self-authorship. So I highly recommend everyone have some sort of self-author practice, and that's usually couched or framed in a way of journaling. And I don't think it's journaling. I think it's very distinct practice from that. And number two, the men that I work with don't like that word. They don't like journaling. I think they tend to associate that with 12-year-old girls. Um, but anyway, it's not the appropriate word anyway, because journaling is you're just recovering your events from the day, or maybe you're writing about emotions, or really the whole world is open to you when you're journaling. But if you're self-authoring, at least with the system that I use, the goals are very specific. And so you do some past authoring, figure out where you came from, what your values are, the challenges that you've had and that you've overcome. Present authoring is really important to figure out, who am I right now, and what's important to me, and what are my priorities. And then a future authoring practice, which is, who do I want to be? Not 5 years or 10 years, but 20 years from now. what's the path I want to look back on and wish I had traveled? And then we want to connect all three of those things. And I think doing that through long form writing, with pen and paper is the way to do it.
Gonna
So I
have
did
to look
that.
into
I
that.
did that and mapped out my own vision for myself. And that's how I plan.
That's incredible. How did you stumble upon that? Because it's something that I just, in my own book research recently, have stumbled upon the self-authoring. Is that what
Yeah.
it's called?
Yeah.
And I'm like so intrigued by it, but I am like a recovering journal addict, I guess you could say, and I've
I
never
love that.
I've never like dabbled in that, but I am very interested in it. So how do you get started in that?
Yeah, it started from a failed adventure. I was tutoring, like I said, math and physics, and I wanted to like figure out a way to scale it, but also figure out a way to mentor young folks because I found the students that I'd worked with for a really long time, like more than a year, we were spending 10, 15 minutes every tutoring session just talking about life and fitness and sleep. And I was like, man, I really love working with young folks. Maybe I can not just tutor, but I can coach young folks. And so I launched a coaching business for teenagers and college kids, and it did terribly because number one, which is really the big issue, is that kids don't have pain. They don't have pain and they don't have regrets. And they haven't made enough mistakes in their life to really want and commit to coaching. And, usually it's us 30, 40-year olds or sometimes older, and you go, man, I've screwed up a ton. I have to stop screwing up. I need someone to help me, whether it's therapy or coaching or what have you. But young folks, the whole world's in front of them. And, so they would get very excited. They'd work with me for a few weeks and then they'd move on to the next thing. And then the other part of it from a business perspective was I had this two-level marketing problem. I had to market to the kids to want to do the program, but then I had to market to the adults to get them to pay for it. And anyone who's in any sort of business knows it is hard enough to market to begin with, right? And now I'm like having to convince two people for every one, you know, student. So it was difficult. It was a wonderful experience in being a better planner on the business front. And it's more of a passion project than it is. It's not a business. But what was born out of that was a lot of research for the program. And one of the things I was researching were, activities and frameworks that people use to become successful, right? How does a kid from a poor community in a rough neighborhood go to an Ivy League school and perform amazing, right? How do the underdogs, find success in school and in life? And one of the things that popped out of that research was self-authoring. And there's quite a bit of research on, they'll do an experiment with an incoming class of freshmen, and they'll have 100 random students get selected to go do a past authoring exercise only. And they just write for 45 minutes about their life and how they got there and their values. And sometimes they'll do future authoring too, where, hey, where do I imagine myself in 20 years? And it's like more than a full standard deviation improvement from that one exercise for like 45 minutes or 60 minutes that they did freshman year, day one. More than a standard deviation improvement in their success in school, and there's, the graduation rates. It balanced out the sexes, it balanced out minority differences. Like, it was just a walloping effect of an hour and spending an hour of your time just writing. And so I incorporated that into my plan, not just for kids, but now for adults, right? Adults that I coach, I make them sit down and do the self-authoring exercise. And so I had gone through that myself as a practitioner of what I try to preach. And I came up with this, entrepreneurial thing was that was going to be my plan after I got out of the service. So
That's incredible. The research that has been done on it, and I'm only just like finding out about it like this week. And
no,
some of the
what the hell? Why don't we
listeners
know about this?
some of the listeners today might be like, "Wow, you just blew my mind." Yes. So, a challenge for all of us this weekend or whenever you hear this, after you hear this, is to give yourself an hour to write in a specific way.
Yeah. Here's what I recommend, because you can do this exercise over and over and over again. And most people get intimidated by sitting down and writing for an hour because we don't sit down and write anymore. We type emails and texts and we dictate. And so if that seems a bridge too far, then take 5 minutes. Take 5 minutes and just write intentionally about your past. Take 5 minutes and write about your present. And then take 5 minutes and write about your future. And whether that goes wonderful or poorly in a week, try to do it again for 10 minutes each, right? And then eventually you get to the point where I think every quarter I try to sit down for an hour. I kind of do it over a period of 3 weeks, and I'll write about my past for an hour, write about my present for an hour, and write about the future for an hour. And I will say, I think I've skipped a quarter or two now because I've done it so many times that I know what that is, and I'm just writing the same things I've written before. But I think you need to get to that point because you have to be able to tell, you have to know your own story, and if you don't know that, then I don't. It's very hard, very difficult to chart a path in a challenging and complex world.
Yeah, that's such a good point. And that's a really good way to practice getting back to yourself, even if it isn't just like little increments. Like you celebrate, hey, I just set a timer for 5 minutes to focus on myself. And whatever comes out, comes out. Like don't label that. Celebrate that you actually set that timer and sat down to write. And writing does incredible things for your like it's brain to hand connection, and it just does something different. I don't know what it is. I'm not a scientist, but there's like something about writing on a piece of paper that like does something. Like if you ever wrote down a goal and then it just like happens, it's something happened when you wrote. So getting yourself
Yeah.
back into pen and paper writing is very important.
Extremely important. I in that research I also was looking up what are the most impactful habits that you can implement in your life that are the easiest to implement. So I'm obsessed with optimization because I'm a math guy and I want to optimize things. And so it's like fine to say, look, maybe the most impactful thing you could possibly do in your life is run a marathon every week for the rest of your life. No one's going to do that. Right? So you go, okay, that's amazing. But if no one's going to do it, then it doesn't really matter. It's not an optimal integration in your life. And when I was looking at the habits, one of them is I kind of combined two, which is wake up every morning and write down your three priorities for that day. And then before you go to bed, and I just do it in the same journal, write down three things that you're thankful for, a simple gratitude practice. And so those are technically two separate practices, but it's the same notebook and it's by your nightstand with the same pen. So I call them the same habit. And it's one of the absolute easiest habits in the world that you can start. You put a notebook by your bed. And if the three, priorities are, I'm going to sleep in today. Well, I guess you would have already woken up, so that's a bit odd. But I'm going to be lazy today, and I'm going to eat mac and cheese, and I'm going to watch a movie. That's fine. Write those down, and then go do those things, right? If it's I'm going to launch a business, and I'm going to change the world, and I'm going to run marathons for the rest of my life, then write that down too. And it's a magic pill for your life. But then on the backside of that, writing down what you're thankful for. So even if you accomplish nothing that day, I'm thankful that I tried. I'm thankful that I have this notebook. Thankful that I'm going to bed right now. And if that's all you can muster, great. But it reframes your mind in a way that I think it just makes life a little easier because life is really, really hard. But if you have a gratitude practice and you can find ways to be thankful, it definitely makes it more manageable.
Gratitude comes up a lot on this show. It really does. I've
Yeah.
said in one of my episodes that gratitude is I think I said magic pill. Gratitude is not the magic pill, but it is a gateway drug.
There you go. I love it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So the waking up and letting yourself know that things are possible, and then before you go to sleep and you realize how many things there are to be grateful for in your life, it's like the start and stop practice of your day. Not only is that a habit, but it trains your mind in a different way to see the possibilities and to see the greatness in your life, even if it does come down to, I've shared this before a few times, but like, oh, I have nothing else to be grateful for in my life today, but you can walk, you can talk, you have all your senses. There is always something to be so grateful for, and taking that minute, especially before, like, after you lived your day and whatever the day had to serve you, just reconnecting with what there is to be thankful for is so important, and it gets you in a different place in your life, and that that difference is really hard to explain.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Do
mean,
you,
you have to do it to experience it. Someone
yeah.
will hear, "Oh, you should write down these things you're thankful for," and go, "Yeah, I should probably do that." But when you actually start doing it and experience what it's like doing it, it's you just can't explain it, right? I think there's a great movie, and I can't remember the title of it. It's like a rom-com, but this guy can go back in time, kind of as far as he wants to go. But he can't go so far back that he changes things too much, right? He can't go back to like before he had a kid, because then he won't have that kid. Anyway, I think Rachel McAdams is in it, and it's a fun, quirky movie. But I love the ending of the movie, because at the end of the movie, he will go back and he will relive a day, and he kind of stops doing that, and he habits a mindset of, I'm not going to go back and change the day. I'm just going to like live each moment as if I couldn't go back anymore. So he chooses not to relive the day, and he instead chooses to just fully embrace the day as is and all of the ups and downs of each moment. And I think it's a really cool lesson there, and I think the gratitude practice helps with that, because we've all been stuck in traffic and just angry, just viciously angry at the traffic. And if you really can take half a second to sit back and realize that I'm sitting in a comfortable car with access to music, and I'm safe, and my family is okay, like life is really pretty good. And we have this idiot brain of ours that's just constantly telling us how messed up everything is, and it's hard to ignore. It really is. But a gratitude practice helps, right? It just grounds you and reminds you how bad things could be, because it could always be worse, right?
It could always be worse. I mean, you can sit there and even be grateful for the traffic that you're sitting in because, you could be somewhere else that's not so pretty.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure.
I would love to hear a little bit more about the communities that you build. I know we touched a little bit
Yeah.
on school and how awesome that platform is in itself, but what kind of communities do you like to build outside of just like the entrepreneur groups?
Yeah. So I do have a community that, a paid community, which is for veterans, first responders, and their families. And they're like, we're teaching them how to use AI to build side hustles and businesses so that they can earn financial freedom. But outside of that, I have several free communities. And I just like building communities because we're social creatures and we want tribes to belong to. And it's just fun to get people together on different topics. So I have an Annapolis golf community where it's been like dormant until like the last week, obviously because the weather's been bad. But so I have that community, which is great. I also have a community for my own podcast called Teach Coach Mentor, where we talk about habits and those sorts of things. And then I have a physics teachers community. I was writing my book, which would love to chat about, but I was writing my book, and I was doing a bunch of research in physics, and I joined a bunch of Facebook groups with physics teachers in them. And I came to find out that 40% of physics teachers in the US don't have physics backgrounds. So they have math, or they have chemistry or biology, and school districts are hurting so bad for physics teachers. They just make, oh, science? Come teach physics. And that's not an easy transition to make. So I launched a free community. We've got 200 teachers in there now, and it's just the space for physics teachers to go and get notes and ask questions and, help each other out. So I very much enjoy bringing people together around common causes. I am an extrovert. I'm a people person, and so it's very enjoyable.
I would love to hear more about your book. And that's crazy. That
It's a bit wild, isn't it?
That's really wild. I mean, I left the education field quite a few years ago, for very many reasons. But one of them is like seeing the decline in the education system, and it's just
Yeah.
upsetting. But to have people like you that are like, hey, here's a need that needs to be filled, and I'm going to fill it, it's
Yeah.
just incredible, and it's really inspiring to hear and see someone do so many things and not just like because you don't want to go down a path that you've seen other people go on, but because you really just want to make a difference in so many different ways, and you are doing it. Like, it is just so inspiring. But
Yeah.
before we do hop off of here, I would love to hear about your book
Well, thank
and
you.
how, yes, and how my listeners can connect with you further and stay in one of the many
Oh my gosh.
communities that you have, because I feel like anyone listening could hop into something that you have going on.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So I wanted to start, I talked about entrepreneurship and, I've started things with the intention of having it be a for-profit business. I've started things that were intended to be entirely free. And self-publishing is a business that I wanted to get into for income and passive income primarily, what I was most curious about, because I want to be able to just do whatever I want to do and, not be tied down to a job. And one thing I learned very quickly about self-publishing is that you either write a book to be profitable or you write a book that you're passionate about. And unfortunately, they rarely connect. And so typically what you do is you have to do a bunch of research and you have to figure out what are people searching for on Amazon. And then you go figure that out and you solve that and you make a book that solves that pain point for that person. And that's how you make profitable books. Or you write about the thing that you love about and you don't really care if it makes money and you hope it does and maybe people follow you and like your books, but you go do the thing because you're passionate about. And as I was doing research, I discovered that people were searching for quantum physics for kids on Amazon, which was crazy to me because I taught physics at university and I wanted to write and I thought, how lucky am I that the thing I'm passionate about and this business I want to create are just meeting. I thought it was insane. I figured out what happened about 10 years ago. There was the baby book, hardcover book, board books. I don't know what I've just said, like 5 B words at the same time, but board books for babies. I think that's what I'm trying to say.
You got
A
it.
whole series exploded. This guy wrote quantum physics for babies and electrical engineering for babies, and they became wildly popular. And I think all those kids are 10 now. And I think the parents are looking for the next thing in the series of books. And so they're searching for quantum physics for kids. And anyway, I got very lucky. Long story short, I wrote the book. It's done very well, and it's on Amazon now. And I'm doing a whole series of STEM books for kids. So astrophysics and rocket science for kids should be out in the next month or two. We've got calculus for kids and electrical engineering for kids, which is on the way. And it's just been a really exciting and crazy adventure. So
Yes, and we're looking forward to it all being in a very cool set. I told you this, it's got to have a cool box that does something at the end. I don't know if you can make it like a electrical engineering kit in a set with all the books. It's gonna be
that
so
would be
cool.
cool. That would be
It's
cool.
gonna be epic.
Yeah.
So, where can all of the listeners connect with you and find all of your greatness? And do you have it in one
Gosh.
place?
I do have one place, just michaelwish.com. That is the easiest place to go find out all of the things that I'm doing, whether it's publishing, community building, nonprofit work, articles that I write for Substack. All the things I'm doing are all on michaelwish.com. So hopefully you'll find something interesting there and run down that path.
I mean, how could they not?
If you see something I'm not doing, you
Let
let
them
me
know.
know. Let me know, and I will probably get really excited and go do that thing. So
You'll have it by the end of next month. Just let Mike
exactly.
know.
Give me
He'll get
30
it
days
handled for you.
for sure.
And then you guys will be well on your way.
That's right.
Before we end our time here together, and after everyone goes to see your website, is there any one thing that you would like the listeners to really hang on to?
Yeah, if it's okay to give three things. They're
Yes.
very short, but these are kind of my operating principles that I approach everything with, whether it's school, teaching, entrepreneurship, work, family, friendships, is number one, be aggressively curious. And I know we talked about this when I was on your show that like every time I meet someone, I pretend it's a first date. And I try to be as aggressively curious as I can, listen as much as I can. And that has worked not just with interpersonal relationships, but with, again, with school, with work, with the entrepreneurial stuff. You have to be really aggressively curious, even if you have to manufacture that sometimes. Number two is to experiment joyfully. You're going to make mistakes and things are going to fail. My first business, coaching business for teenagers, didn't do well, and that's okay because I learned so much from that. And so treat everything like an experiment. You don't know if it's going to work out or not. And if it doesn't work out, it's not a reflection on you. But again, be curious about it, figure out why it didn't work, and keep trying, keep testing. And then the third is get obsessed, and get obsessed in a healthy way. Obviously, there are unhealthy obsessions, but I see a lot of people get excited about something, and they start to hit a hard time with it, and they kind of stop immediately. And I would say you can't go through your life constantly hitting walls and quitting because we're surrounded by walls and challenges and difficulty and complexity. So, find something. If it's something you're passionate about, obviously it just makes it easier. There's sort of an innate obsession there, but find something you can sink your teeth into and just keep getting after it. So those are my three points of advice.
I love that. As soon as you said hitting the walls and quitting, I'm like, the goldfish still swims.
That's yeah, exactly. Just
I
keep
don't know
swimming.
why. I don't know why that popped in my head, but I was like, I might have to share that.
I'll put that in
Yeah,
my book. I think the goldfish keeps swimming.
yeah.
Yeah,
You can hit the wall, and it can be a little intimidating or beaten down.
yeah.
Something I'm facing now is like a rock between a hard place and like at a crossroads, and I'm like you said, I'm not letting it mean anything about me. It's just something about the experience. And so often we have to just take a second to rewire what that visual of the experience could be instead of what you thought it should be. So you just gotta keep hitting those walls and keep swimming.
That's exactly right.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing all of your gifts and taking the time to really dive into everything that you have going on because it can be overwhelming when you're living in it. But it is so special and beautiful and unique to everyone hearing this episode and just really getting to share your greatness is just, it's awesome. So I appreciate you coming on and being here with us today. So go connect with Mike and all of his cool stuff and be on the lookout for this epic set because I might not let him put out the set without a really cool box that does something at the end. I'm gonna make
I
sure he
will
does
figure
that.
out this interactive box thing, and you'll get the first one for sure.
I might not be able to let it go.
Very good. Thanks so much for having me on, Lindsay.
Yes, thank you.